Hello everyone and welcome to my Algebra 2 honors project. My name is John Mayen and today I will be helping you solve two different problems. Hello everybody, today I'll be showing you how to solve two different problems. The first problem involves graphing range, domain, x and y intercepts. The second problem involves us graphing two different functions and justifying if they should give us the same type of graph or not. I will be walking you step by step on how to solve both of these problems. Domain. Domain is the furthest or closest point on the x-axis. Range. Range is the highest and lowest points on the y-axis. X and y intercepts, where the line crosses the x and or y plane. These are important terms to know for the upcoming problem. So question 1. Question 1 states, on one set of axes sketch graphs of three different functions, each with x-intercepts at -3, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, and 4, 0. A domain of all real numbers and a range of y is greater than or equal to -6. Try to make the functions as different as you can while still satisfying all of the necessary conditions. Use different colors so that anyone can tell which function is which. Use words to describe the differences in the three graphs. Okay, so this is a lot of information, so let's make a list of all of the parameters or rules that we must follow when graphing the functions. So our parameters are must have three different shaped functions or lines. Each line must have x-intercepts at -3, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, and 4, 0. The lines must have a range of y is greater than or equal to -6 and the domain of all real numbers. We must also label each line with three different colors so we can easily distinguish them from one another. So let's draw a graph. Our first step is to do a line for y is greater than or equal to -6, so we know to not pass this line when graphing our lines. Here we created a dotted line. Our next step is to put our x-intercepts, or where the line should cross at the x-axis. Our first one is at -3, 0, second one is at 0, 0, third one is at 1, 0, and fourth one is at 4, 0. Now let's draw our first line. I will use blue for our first line. As you can see, our line crosses all x-intercepts and it does not pass the range of y is greater than or equal to -6. Also, it passes the vertical line test, so we know that it is a function. So let's draw our second line. As you can see, our second line satisfies the, the parameter that it must cross the x-intercepts at those specific points. It also does not pass the range of y is greater than or equal to -6. Let's draw our third line. Our third line meets all of the constraints, or all of the parameters also because it passes the x-intercepts at the given points and it does not pass the range of y is greater than or equal to -6. Let's move on. So let's move on to the next problem. A term you should know is multiple representations. Multiple representations can be an x and y graph, a chart, or an equation. Question 2 states, use your graphing calculator to help you sketch the graphs of y is equal to 2 divided by x plus 1 and y equals 2 divided by x plus 1. Are the graphs the same? Should they be? Explain clearly why the graph should or should not be the same. Be sure to justify your reasoning with multiple representations. So let's make a list of our parameters. Our parameters say that we must sketch the graphs of y is equal to 2 divided by x plus 1 and y equals 2 divided by x plus 1 using a graphing calculator. Explain why the graphs should or should not be the same. Create multiple representations to support your opinion on why they should or should not be the same. So first, let's graph the equations. As you can see, both equations were graphed. The first equation, y equals 2 divided by x plus 1, is labeled in red, while the second equation, 2 divided by y equals 2 divided by x plus 1, is labeled in blue. Now let's make multiple representations. Our first chart is for the first equation and our second chart is for the second equation. As you can see, the numbers aren't the same, but they're pretty similar because at every two x's the number either increases or decreases. Other representations can include the graph that was graphed and the two equations. So our final conclusion is that based on the multiple representations that were created, we can concur that the graph should be similar. Let's start off with the equations. Y is equal to 2 divided by x plus 1 and y equals 2 divided by x plus 1. Both equations are rational equations that have a fraction in them. Both equations also have a 2 as a numerator and x as a denominator. Lastly, both equations add 1. This is one justification on why the graph should be similar. Our second representation is a table. When we solved for y, the answers for both graphs were not the same, but they were pretty similar because at every two numbers, the y would either increase or decrease. Our last representation is the graph. When the two functions were graphed, they made the lines that were pretty similar in shape. The lines were basically parallel to each other because they looked like they were never going to touch. Because of this evidence, we can concur that the graphs of the equations are similar. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope you learned from it.